So what I thought we'd do today, because it's something I get asked about all the time, is take a little bit of a deep dive or a deeper dive into uh, one specific area of the call flows inside of a smartphone around setting up an IVR. So a lot of times people will have a desire to have an IVR in their phone system, the ability to set up the system so that if someone calls in, you're giving them a set of options and they can choose from those options, and then their choice will determine what happens next in the flow. And that can be a really useful thing if you've got a departmental setup. We've seen that a lot where companies have departmental setups and they want to give people choices. It can also be very useful because it can trigger certain events, depending on what you're trying to do. So I'm going to just kind of go through a little bit about how the different options you have inside of an IVR. Now, to do this, obviously, you need to have a call flow and you need to go ahead and edit the call flow. Here I am in our admin section and in the call flows, and I'm going to just go ahead and edit the call flow. When you start the call flow, you've got a blank sheet, so more or less, and you have the options that you see on the right, the different voice applets. So round robin, dial IVR, voicemail, greeting, business hours, DNC, and hang up. And those can all be kind of combined together to create quite a powerful and a completely customized method of your way of having your phone system work. So I'm going to start out an IVR. Obviously, one of the key things about the IVR is that the IVR allows you to set up a pathway based on a key press. So the first thing you're going to want to do when you think of an IVR is you're going to want to make sure that you plan ahead. I usually, when I'm designing an IVR with a company, we sort of map it out on a piece of paper or on a Google sheet or something where we can kind of go through and say, okay, well, what do we really want this to do? How do we want it to work? And it's useful to do that, particularly because you can start to spot things maybe you want to change or do better based on drawing it out. It's sort of like the measure twice, cut once principle. If you just start going ahead and making things, it can become a little bit of a painful exercise by where you have to keep going back and editing. But the IVR is the way of doing this is very simple. Usually what you'll do is you will give some sort of menu prompt when they reach the IVR. So, you'll have a recording here where you uh, welcome people to your company and then give them the options. Press 1 for, press 2 for, press 3 for, etc. And that recording can be managed right here. You can go ahead and choose a recording that you have done that you have already in your library, or you go ahead and record one directly there. Obviously, you can also read the text like a robot, but I wouldn't necessarily recommend that because nobody really likes calling a phone system and having it go, read out in a very weird voice the options. It's much better to have your team do it. But you can get an audio in there that welcomes them to your company, gives them all the options, and then you just can layer up these options, and it works essentially just like you would expect, and you can add in the different voice applets as you need it. So in this case, we've got key press number 1. So this would happen if the person presses 1. And what the key thing for me is number 1, I always recommend doing a little description. Basically, as the more complex your system can become, the more having a little description of what it does will save you from having to actually listen to things and try it out yourself. So let's pretend like pressing 1 will get me to sales, and I'm gonna say, I'll just quickly. So I forgot that I can't go forward for that. So if pressing 1 goes to sales, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna drop in a dial applet for 1, and I'm gonna maybe decide to go to one of my teams. So there you go. Simultaneous calling is on, and I'm forwarding it to one of my teams, smart dialer testing in this case. And the same setup options that you have in the normal dial applet. So the same things apply in terms of pro dialing and saying before dial, simultaneously calling or not. ring time sets. You can do the exact same options. And then, of course, you can decide what happens if nobody answers. And in this case, maybe I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to drop a voicemail, and I'll go ahead and do it to my team, the same team box. So that right there means that if someone gets to my IVR menu and they press number one, we're gonna use a dial applet to call this team here, everybody at once simultaneously. If nobody answers within the ring time, it's gonna go and do a voicemail. And then you can just literally just layer it up. And so you can, again, that's why I always suggest that you go ahead and you give the option to like draw this out on a piece of paper, kind of map it out for you so you can do it very easily. If I decided to maybe make this one, let's just say finance, and go ahead there, I have the option of even doing another IVR menu. So you could be in the case where if you press two for finance, once they do that, they've got a new set of options. They can press one for if you need to make a payment, or number two, if you need to chase up an invoice, or three, and you can layer these up. And an important part, if you do start to do a layering like we just talked about, is you've got this ability to return to previous menus. So say for in this case, I'm going to say press 9 to return to previous menu. It just means that if, because we've gone in a level, we've pressed 2 and we've gone into the second level of IVR, once they're in that second level and they want to get back to the first so they can start over again, maybe they pressed the wrong one to begin with, that return to your previous menu, in this case I put for keystroke 9, that just allows you to go forward and then bring them back. And that's really useful if you're layering up a multi-departmental IVR structure. I've also seen IVRs used really effectively for people's extensions. So if you've got a group of people and you want to add extensions to your company's phone system, say, extension 100 is going to be me, I can go ahead and say, well, extension 100, you're going to go ahead and dial Jordan, right? Because that's Jordan's extension. And so we know that, extension 100 is Jordan, if you can type, which I can't. And for instance, if I did 101 and that was Ellen, I could go ahead and layer up a dial applet and that would be 11, or 102, and whatever. The number of key presses really don't matter. The point is you've got complete flexibility. So you can, you can give them the option of selecting extensions. You can give the options of multiple layered menus, and everything can tie back together. And it means that you can completely customize your phone system. We use it a lot. I use it a lot when I've been setting up customers in the past, larger companies that have, more people in it, and they want to make sure everybody doesn't necessarily have their own phone number, but they've got an extension. We can use it like that. And another really nice trick that I've kind of learned over the years doing IVRs for people is you can add IVRs with business hours to make it even more powerful. So something I see a lot is that the sales team will be available for 9 a.m. to 8 p.m., but the finance team is only available Monday to Thursday, 9 till 4, say. And so you can say, for instance, this is sales 1. I'm going to modify this dial applet, and I'm actually going to go ahead and take that out, and I'm going to drop the business hours. And, so what I've done now is when pressing 1, instead of going straight to that dial applet, it's first going to check the business hours. And I could say, well, you know what? These guys are open from 9 a.m. To, let's say, 4 p.m. And I can't clearly look at these. 4 p.m. Maybe they're only open. Sales is only open Mondays from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. But because we've added that layer of business hours onto the IVR, each one of your selections can have a different set of business hours. So sales can be open all the time, or sales can be open on Saturdays as well, but finance may be here. I've seen this work really well in property management, where you've got, you know, your IVR option for your maintenance people, and they're open almost 24/7, but the finance team is open 3 days a week, and the sales team or property management team is open 5 days a week. And so you can layer this up, and of course, using the normal business hours that you would expect, you set the business hours here, and then you decide what happens when we're open, i.e., within the hours we've selected. We can go ahead and drop an applet in. And also what happens when we're closed. So when the sales team is closed, in this case, what are we going to do? We're going to take a message. Are we going to forward it to an external answering service, or are we going to forward it to another department? So that gives you, you know, combining all those together gives you pretty much every option you could want in terms of building up a guided path for people calling into your company. It's something we see used really successful with some companies, and it's something that maybe people don't really understand the full capability of it, which is why I thought it'd be a good thing to go through today.